Hey guys, I'm back with a review for The Suicide Squad. Watching this movie was the first time I had been in a cinema for I think over a year, and it was great to be back. And so here I am to review the Suicide Squad movie. This review will contain spoilers, of course, because I'm not good at doing reviews without spoilers. I don't know really what to talk about, but yeah, spoilers are ahead. So, The Suicide Squad. This movie is not a sequel to the 2016 Suicide Squad movie, but it might as well be because this movie actually follows up and references the first Suicide Squad from 2016 a few times. The first point to be made is obviously that it uses a lot of the same characters as the first Suicide Squad, but also early in the movie we actually get a few interactions between Harley Quinn and Captain Boomerang, kind of showing that they know each other from the previous film as well. And I want to talk about Captain Boomerang a bit because he was a character that I expected to see a whole lot more of in this movie than what we actually got. Of course, if you've seen the movie, you know that pretty much over half of the squad is killed off within like the first 20 minutes of the movie with that opening beach scene. Weasel is the first member to die, and I just love that this from the second that the squad hit the ground or the water, I guess, Weasel's just a member dies immediately with Weasel, who of course he can't swim, so he just drowns immediately. And Waller's reaction to the whole ordeal, it was great. I mean this movie has no chill with the characters it kills off. In the first Suicide Squad, pretty much they only killed off like Slipknot and then El Diablo. I think those are the only ones that were killed off. This movie they kill off a whole bunch of characters in the opening scene, that is. And I was actually kind of sad to see Boomerang go because, of course, he was an original member from the first film. I wish they had maybe given him a tiny bit more to do in this movie. I'm not asking for like a huge part in the movie, but just a small thing for him. But then we get introduced to the actual Suicide Squad, consisting of King Shark, Peacemaker, Bloodsport, Ratcatcher 2, and Polka Dot Man. Oh yeah, and Harley Quinn and Rick Flag as well. And they play off of each other really well. We have Bloodsport and Peacemaker kind of having a rivalry, and we have Ratcatcher 2 and King Shark kind of forming a friendship. The humor was great in this movie. James Gunn handled it really well. The kind of back and forth between the whole squad was very entertaining. The opening scene is actually my favorite in terms of comedy, with Harley Quinn stumbling in and commenting about Javelin's accent, and the whole discussion about TDK's name and thinking Weasel's a dog. I think that was the best scene in terms of humor in the movie. Alright, so now I want to get into the Thinker. The reason I didn't mention him before as part of the squad was because I didn't really think he was a part of the squad in this movie. The way he ties into this movie is mostly through his relation to Starro. I like the design of the guy. He looked very close to how he does in the comics. Then there's Polka Dot Man, who I thought was a great addition to the movie. The guy was funny, his powers were cool to see on screen for the first time, at least in live action. The whole recurring gag about his mother was pretty funny, but throughout the movie I kept waiting for that like huge Polka Dot Man moment, and it never really happened. He died a pretty comedic death, but I mean, I get it's Polka Dot Man, he's a stupid character, but I actually kind of felt sorry for the guy, and I think the squad could have shown a bit more remorse when he died, because he did make it really far into the movie. And I get there are more important characters than freaking Polka Dot Man, he actually had a pretty good run in the movie. He was one of the highlights of the movie for me, and they really got the perfect actor to play him. David Desmalchian, who has actually played a lot of roles for DC. He played Abracadabra in The Flash, he played the Joker's thug in The Dark Knight, and he played Calendar Man in The Long Halloween, and I'm pretty sure he also voiced the Penguin in The Long Halloween Part 2. He's done a lot of work for DC, and he actually has a rare skin disorder, and he was called things like Polka Dot as a kid by other kids, and so this role was really important to him, so I'm glad he was cast in the role. He was great in this movie. Then there's Peacemaker, played excellently by John Cena. In this movie, he, like I said before, has kind of a rivalry with Bloodsport in this movie. Peacemaker is getting his own show, as we know, but I'll talk about that later in the video when I get into the post-credit scenes. But I think the big thing to talk about really with Peacemaker is his betrayal, which I didn't see coming. Actually, it makes sense that Amanda Waller would actually make Peacemaker betray them because of the whole Starro thing. And Peacemaker, he almost kills Ratcatcher too, but he kills Rick Flag, and I loved Rick Flag in this movie. He's obviously another one of the characters that returns from the last movie, but is killed off. And that scene where he's fighting Peacemaker, I think everyone was really rooting for Rick Flag to win, and he just gets that piece of rock or whatever it was just stabbed through his heart. It actually kind of made me sad because I really had grown to like Rick Flag over this movie as well as the previous one. And this movie balances the comedic moments and the kind of emotional moments pretty well. Sometimes it doesn't always work out, but it balances them pretty well with deaths like especially Rick Flag, but also Captain Boomerang and Polka Dot Man actually being kind of sad. Whereas in the first Suicide Squad, I didn't really feel anything when, well, I obviously didn't feel anything when Slipknot died, but I didn't really care for El Diablo's death either. Then there's King Shark, who's probably my favorite character in this movie. He is really pretty much the only member of like the main squad that is a Suicide Squad regular. Like he's in most versions of the team, of course, as well as Harley Quinn, but he was sorely missing in the 2016 one. Apparently they couldn't really do the CGI then, so instead they had Killer Croc as a replacement, and Killer Croc was fine, but King Shark was really the character we all wanted to see. He is voiced perfectly by Sylvester Stallone. He was so great as King Shark. He was so hilarious. King Shark was very funny in this movie, obviously with his lack of basic knowledge. And the CGI for him was pretty good as well. He looks pretty similar to how he does in the Flash TV show. But of course in the Flash TV show, he's way more buff. So yeah, King Shark is probably my favorite character in the movie. But like with Polka Dot Man, I kept kind of waiting for the huge King Shark moment where he would just go completely apeshit and just tear people apart, bite people's heads off. And don't get me wrong, he did do those things in the movie, but I kind of wanted a scene where he just completely went insane. I love the scene where he finds the huge aquarium. I'm glad they made room for a scene like that for the comedic character. He was the perfect mix of adorable and vicious. I'm kind of surprised he made it to the end. I thought maybe he would like sacrifice himself for Ratcatcher or something, but I'm glad he made it out alive. Ratcatcher is a character I was really pleasantly surprised by. I didn't really go into the movie having any sort of expectations for her, but again, I came out of the movie with her as one of my favorite characters in the entire movie. She had a great story with the rats and with the whole thing with her father, and I think she had a great dynamic with Bloodsport as well. Then there is Margot Robbie's amazing Harley Quinn. I'll just never get tired of watching her play Harley Quinn. She has appeared in quite a lot of DCEU movies so far. She's appeared in like 3 so far. And she was great in this movie just like she is in all of her other appearances. One thing I liked about Harley in this movie is that she was alone for quite a bit of the movie actually, and it shows that she can really carry the story on her own. She had pretty much her own movie after all with Birds of Prey, so I like that we got to have some alone time with Harley before she met up with the other Suicide Squad after the first one was killed. I'm glad that they went with the red and black color scheme for this movie instead of the red and blue that she had in Suicide Squad. And I also liked her small arc with taking over the Javelin from Javelin. That was a nice touch. And the scene where she escapes is probably my favorite Harley scene in the entire DCU so far. And finally, there is Idris Elba as Bloodsport, who is effectively the main character of this movie. He's a great character in this movie. Idris Elba is a great actor, but there's one thing that's pulling Bloodsport down in this movie and preventing him from being one of my favorite characters. And that is how similar he is to Deadshot from the previous movie. They even have the same sort of storyline with them both having a daughter and they're both in prison and they both join the Suicide Squad to protect her, to protect their daughter, to prove that they're a good guy to their daughter. The whole storyline with Bloodsport in this movie could have worked just as well with Deadshot. And I wish they had just gotten Idris Elba to play Deadshot, because he looks, I would say, similar enough to Will Smith that it would be believable that that a recast would be believable. And he was originally going to play Deadshot, I believe, in the movie, but they changed his character to Bloodsport so that Will Smith would be able to return in the future. But that's just going to look really awkward if they make like a third one. They make the first one with Deadshot, then the second one, oh, here's Bloodsport, and then the third one, are they going to have both Bloodsport and Deadshot, or are they just going to have Deadshot back and act like Bloodsport was never a thing? I just wish they had just recast Deadshot for the movie. That's the main problem as Bloodsport, though I still like him as a character in the movie. I just think he was a bit too similar to that of Deadshot. Like I said, this movie isn't really a sequel to the first Suicide Squad, but in my opinion, it can be viewed just as easily as a sequel to the first Suicide Squad. And that brings up the question of what happened to some of the other members of the first one, like Killer Croc and Katana, who could have easily appeared in this movie. I think it's kind of a missed opportunity not to have them. They didn't even have to be like important characters in the movie. Obviously, we have the opening scene where a whole bunch of people is killed off. They could have just as easily added, Killer Croc and Katana into that scene and just have them be killed off in the beginning just for some more continuity. But I guess they didn't do that. I don't know why they didn't take that opportunity to show what happened to these characters. I get Deadshot because obviously Will Smith wasn't able to be in this movie, but I think the two actors who play Katana and Killer Croc, I don't think they're not as big of actors as someone like Will Smith, so I think they would have just as easily have been able to come back for this one. Now, finally, for the characters, I want to discuss Starro, and I don't have that much to say about Starro other than the fact that I'm glad they included it. It is the first villain that the Justice League ever faced, of course, but it works just as well as a villain for this Suicide Squad movie because Starro didn't. It's a giant starfish. It didn't really need any development or any character, and because it didn't need that, gave the film the opportunity to focus on the Suicide Squad a lot more, because Starro really only appears as a giant monster to be fought in the third act, and that's okay, I think, because this movie really didn't need a well developed villain. I think Starro was just fine as the villain for this movie, and I think that's the main reason why the characters in this movie are more developed and better than in the first Suicide Squad movie, because they didn't have to spend time developing a villain. Or I guess the Suicide Squad are all villains technically, but the main villain of the movie, they didn't have to spend time developing that. Finally, I want to talk about the post-credit scenes, and I actually predicted both of them. I was thinking, right when Weasel died, I was thinking, all right, well, there's probably going to be a post-credit scene where we see him on the beach and he just suddenly coughs up water and he hadn't died. And that's actually exactly what we got. So I was actually quite impressed with myself that I was able to predict that. But Weasel runs off into the night. I don't know, they're probably never ever going to mention Weasel in the DCU again or do anything with him again. It would be funny if they did, but I doubt it. And the second one I also predicted. The second one involves Peacemaker. And when Peacemaker, quote unquote, died in the movie, he was shot by Bloodsport in a really cool scene. I was very confused because obviously we know that he was going to be getting a show later on. And I think it's kind of weird that Peacemaker, of literally all of these characters, is getting a show, but I'm not complaining. I'm going to watch it. But turns out in the final post-credit scene, Peacemaker actually survived, and we're going to be seeing him in his own show, which I don't know how I feel about that. I'm going to watch it probably, but Peacemaker just became kind of unlikable to me after his whole betrayal. I get that he had to betray them or he would get killed by Waller, but still, he didn't have to kill Rick Flag. He didn't have to try to kill Ratcatcher 2. He didn't have to do any of that. He just had to get the damn disc thing. But yeah, hopefully the Peacemaker show can redeem him. And boy, did this movie make me hate Amanda Waller, but yeah, Amanda Waller she can go fuck herself. But Viola Davis is an absolutely amazing actor. She's so amazing as Amanda Waller, but God, I hate that character. All in all, The Suicide Squad is a colorful, funny, but also gruesome movie with great characters and emotional moments that actually hit. But is it better than the 2016 Suicide Squad? Yes, it is. It is much better. But I actually don't think I hate the 2016 Suicide Squad movie as much as other people. I don't think it's actually that bad. Of course, it's not. It's not absolutely amazing. It's not even great. I wouldn't say, but I think it's about average. I think it gets probably a bit more hate than it deserves. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, this newer Suicide Squad is the better out of the two, in my opinion. It is directed by James Gunn, the director we always wanted for a Suicide Squad movie, just because he did Guardians of the Galaxy with introducing a completely new cast of characters into the MCU, none of which had been seen before, and he handled development between all of them very, very well, and that was just what Suicide Squad from 2016 was missing. So here we have it, the Suicide Squad. I am going to give it a 7 out of 10, though it is pretty close to an 8. Thanks for watching my review for the Suicide Squad. Please like and subscribe and comment down below what you think of this movie. I would love nothing more than to hear your opinions on the Suicide Squad. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.